It had been 2 days since Izuku's performance reviews. And 1A had been hard at work in the backyard. Sure, they still did a lot of the basic things they needed to do, Sato still cooked, and they still taught lessons, but most of their time was spent in the backyard, working on something. And the kids weren't allowed to see what it was, as Izuku banned them from going into the backyard, and all the ways that one could normally see the backyard from inside the house had been blocked off, and the entrance to the backyard was being guarded by Shoji. It was clear that whatever this was, it was supposed to be a surprise. With only 1A, Izuku and a select number of the kids were informed of what was going on. These kids were Yonda, of course, Fuku, and Kyoko, who were told for reasons that went unexplained, and all of them were being tight-lipped. So when, after breakfast, Izuku asked for all the kids to gather around the entrance to the backyard, almost everyone was excited. "What do you think they've been doing?" Ken asked all the other kids who'd gathered at the entrance. That being Eri, Kei, Kiba, Fu, Sanson, Koda, Shiroku, Yami, Otoko, Netsu, Nara, and of course Ken himself. "My guess is that it's some kind of going-away party, given how they're gonna be leaving soon," Fu guessed. "Although you'd think we'd be the ones making the preparations. Seems a bit weird to make a party for yourselves. Is it? I had birthday parties for myself before I met Daddy," Kei said. "Kei, you say the most casually sad things I've ever heard," Fu responded. Before the conversation could continue, Ochako came in. "Alright, everyone. I'm sure you've noticed we've been up to something for the past couple of days, and now it's finally time to show you what we've been working on." "Alright." Netsu cheered with excitement. "This better be good," Ken said with an equal amount of excitement. "Yeah," Sanson screamed. "Okay, let's go." Ochako opened the door, and she and the kids charged outside and saw that the backyard had been changed. The most noticeable was a giant stage, with a judging panel in of it, and bleachers behind it. Another very noticeable thing was that part of the nearby forest had been cleared out, and in its place were 2 different racing courses, on opposite sides, although they could only see the starting lines. There was another, smaller stage, with a bunch of weights on them. Close to that, there was a big pit with some weird green slime in there. The court also had 2 large walls put on either side of it. Lastly, there were a bunch of tables set up, seemingly for dining. "Surprise!" Mina shouted, as she and 1A, Sans, Momo, were all standing outside waiting for them, along with Kai who was off to the side. "We decided to have one big field day. We're gonna have lots of competitions, and Momo even made trophies. There's also gonna be a big feast, and tonight we're gonna do a fireworks show," Toru explained enthusiastically. "A fireworks show!" Kei screamed excitedly. "I love fireworks!" Shiroku shouted, with a look of pure joy on her face. "Forget the light show. What kind of competitions?" Kiba asked. "Oh, you'll see," Mina said. "Let's not waste time. Let the games begin. XXXXXXXXXXXXXX." The first competition was a simple one. Tug of war. This was what the pit was built for. The rules went as such: there would be 2 teams, a boys' team, and a girls' team. Both of them would be on either side of the pit and would have to pull a rope to force the other side to fall into the pit, and the slime. As for the teams. For the boys, there was Sato, Ken, Fu, and Kai. Kai was exempt from having to fall into the pit because of his size. And for the girls, there was Nara, Kiba, Ochako, and Shiroku. And both teams were using special sports tracksuits to make sure their clothes didn't get dirty from the slime. Both teams were ready to go, holding the huge, steel rope. Kai used all 3 of his heads to bite onto it, Ken was using his forearms transformation, and Nara was using her humangazer transformation. Sato had eaten a ton of sugar, and Ochako was using 15% full cowling. "You ready to lose?" Ken taunted, looking specifically at his sister and Kiba. "As if," Nara and Kiba said at the same time. "Last time I checked, humangazer was stronger than forearms dweeb," Nara said in her now extremely deep voice. "But he's not alone," Sato smirked. "Sorry ladies, but you're all going straight into the pit. We'll see about that," Ochako shouted back confidently, her competitive spirit lit like a match. Fu looked back at Kai and Kai nodded back. "Alright, let the tug of war begin," Mina called, waving a flag to signify the start of the match. Immediately, both sides started pulling, using their immense strength to try and pull the other side towards them. At first, it was hard to see who was winning. Both sides seemed rather equal, with the boys moving very, very slowly towards the hole. However, that soon changed, as the girls started kicking it up a notch. 18% full cowling. Ochako shouted. Rah! Nara screamed as she increased in size, spikes growing from her neck and head, as well as her tail, as she went full power mode. Suddenly, the boys were moving towards the hole much faster. Gah! No! Ken shouted, as the pit rapidly got closer and closer. Need to buy more time. Moving to phase 2. Fu thought. Kaiosiai's tendrils wrapped around all of the boys, before more of them went deep into the ground, spreading like roots, to try and help ground them, and keep them from getting pulled. At the same time, Kaiosiai spread, between the fibers of the rope, merging with it, and pulling towards them, making it so the rope itself was trying to move towards the boys. This significantly slowed down the pace at which the boys moved toward the pit, but they were still being pulled toward it, just much slower. Clever brother, but you've only stalled your defeat, Kiba stated confidently. Guys, I don't think we can win, Fu stated. Don't give up. Sato shouted as he tugged with all his might. Come on guys. Keep pulling. I'm trying, Ken shouted. Soon, the boys were beginning to teeter on the edge of the pit, with Sato's foot right next to the hole. We're almost there girls. Ochako shouted with a big smile on her face. They're done for. Shiruka stated confidently. Get ready to eat slime doofus. Nara shouted at her brother. In response, Fu smirked. Time for stage 3. He raised one of his hands and gave Kai a thumbs up. Seeing the signal, Kai knew it was time. And he actually started trying, giving the rope his strongest tug. Whoa, /ha/aw. Everyone, on both sides, shouted out in surprise as Kai's sudden yanking took everyone off guard, as the rope suddenly shot back towards the boys' side. However, Fu was prepared of course, and using Kaiosiai's tendrils, he made sure no one got flung into the air, or tripped up, and stood their ground. The same could not be said for the girls, who were immediately taken off guard, all of them fell forward. This quickly resulted in them being pushed into the pit and falling into the slime. Splat! And the boys win, Mina announced. Yay! Kai shouted out, screaming with excitement, while everyone except him and Fu was all extremely confused as to what just happened. Kai lowered his head towards Fu. Big brother, your plan worked. We won. Yep. Good job Kai, Fu said, petting Kai's head. You too Kaiosiai. What just happened? Ken asked, happy they won but confused as to where all that power came from. Oh, well you see, I realized pretty quickly that we wouldn't be able to win under normal circumstances, Fu explained. Those girls are just way too strong. So I needed a plan. So I talked to Kai before we started, and told him not to start trying until I gave him the signal. We'd wait until the girls got confident, and then take them by surprise, make them trip, and pull them into the hole before they could get over the shock. Wow, good thinking kid. You gave them the tug of war equivalent of a sucker punch. Sato gave Fu a high five. Foul. I call foul. Kiba jumped out of the hole, her clothes covered in slime. Deceiving us like that. What an underhanded trick Fu. Yeah, we definitely would have won if they fought fair. Shiruku objected as she crawled out of the pit, Ochako, and Nara following behind. We fought fair. Nothing in the rules said we couldn't do that. Fu countered. This wasn't a competition to see who was stronger, it was to see which side to put the other side in the pit. And you fell, so we won. Hear that losers, we won fair and square. Ken gloated. Don't get a big head. The only reason you won is because of Fu and Kai. Nara rebutted. Now, everyone settle down. Ida came in to break up the argument. There will be no sore losers or winners. The boys won fair and square, fighting smarter, not harder. Ken and Sato were still very important to Fu's plan, even if they didn't know about it. After all, the plan wouldn't work if they all fell in the hole right away. Shoji pointed out. And it's your own fault for not paying attention, Shinso added, scolding the girls. If you had, you would have noticed that Kai's heads weren't moving at all until Fu gave the signal. Not to mention Fu's plan relied on all of you getting overconfident, so if it worked you only have yourselves to blame for not keeping your guards up. All the girls' eyes widened, and their faces went red with embarrassment, as they realized the blame for their defeat rested mostly on them. Kiba, did you really think I would ever try to beat you with a trick under my sleeve? Fu asked her. Kiba stared at him blankly for a moment, before tilting her head down. And for a moment everyone got a bit worried that Kiba might throw a tantrum or something. But their fears were abated when Kiba tilted her head up towards the sky and laughed, putting her hands on her hips. Ah ha ha ha. Touché Fu. Touché. But know that every defeat I suffer only makes me stronger. Next time we face each other, I will come out victorious. That's the spirit, Kiba. Ochako grinned, patting her on the back. Alright. And here are your rewards. Mina announced as Shoji came forward, holding 4 medals. Congratulations to our tug-of-war champions. Sato, Fu, Ken, and Kai. Shoji put the medals on all of their necks except Kai, whose head was too big, and as such, he hung it on one of his teeth. Phew. Man, I am pooped. Sato was struggling not to just pass out there and now, as his quirk's downsides started to rear their ugly head. I'm gonna take a quick nap and then join back with the cooking team. Go ahead, big guy, you've earned it. Mina told him, patting him on the back as he walked back towards the house. Now, after a short break, we'll move on to the next event. XXXXXXXXXXXX. Okay, boys and girls. It's time for the next event, Mina announced. Dodgeball. Everyone was now at the court, with the participants standing on the court, while everyone else sat on the bleachers. On the court were Fu, Su, Kiba, Nara, Ojiro, Sansan, Netsu, Ken, Ochako, Shiroku, Shoji, and Tokoyami. Alright, with all our contestants lined up, it's time to decide who is on whose team. Mina said, picking up a hat and holding it out towards everyone. In this hat are pieces of paper, blue and red respectively. These will decide what team you're on, so go ahead and pull one out. Blue team to the left, and red team to the right. All the participants lined up, and took a paper from the hat, before lining up on opposite sides of the court. On the left side, was the red team. Su, Kiba, Ojiro, Sansan, Netsu, and Nara. On the right, was blue team. Fu, Ochako, Shiroku, Shoji, Tokoyami, and Ken. Would you look at that, the chance to avenge myself has arrived sooner than I thought. Kiba said, looking right at Fu. Either that or the chance to learn from another defeat, Fu responded. Either way, win-win. Alright. With the teams decided, I'll go over the rules while Kaminari and Jiro set up the balls. Mina said. Kaminari snickered as he worked. Balls. Jiro rolled her eyes. Really? Grow up. So the rules are simple: if you get hit by the ball, you're out. If you catch the ball, you stay in. Mina explained. Normally if you caught the ball, the person who threw it would be out, but that might be a bit unfair to the people who only have 2 hands. Also, you can only catch things with hands, or things that look like hands. So Sansan, Kyosei, if you want to catch them you have to make hands. Also, you're not allowed to really hurt anyone. If you do, then you're out. Unless it's Sansan of Fu, because you can't really injure them with dodge balls. Alright, now with those rules in place, Ken, Nara, do your thing. Right. They both said at the same time, before activating their Omnitrixis. After a flash of green and pink, Ken had turned into 4 arms again, and Nara was XLR8. No one try to go for the balls, Fu said immediately. We're not gonna outspeed Nara. Don't even try. Just go on the defensive. Alrighty then, with that done, let the game begin. Mina signaled. Immediately, just as Fu predicted, Nara dashed forward at extreme speeds and grabbed all 6 dodgeballs before anyone on their side could get one. Kiba, Netsu, Su, you guys are our cannons, me, Sansan, and Ojiro will go on defense, Nara said, handing 2 balls each to those 3 individuals. Oh yeah. Netsu smirked, and set one of the balls down, before tossing the other one up, and as it came down, he hit forward with his palm, while also creating an explosion of fire in his hand, causing the ball to fly towards Tokoyami like a rocket. Dark Shadow came out and caught the ball, just barely. Kiba threw both balls, at Fu at high speed, one aiming for his chest, the other for his leg. Fu, rather than move out of the way, had his entire upper body fold back, using Kyosei to move his body at high speeds, and in unnatural ways, snapping his spine in half to dodge one of the balls, and snapping his leg upwards to dodge the other ones, causing the balls to fly past him, and Fu sent out 2 tendril arms to grab them before they rebounded back. Su tossed up the balls, before jumping up, and kicking them at Ochako and Shiroku. Ochako dodged out of the way, and Shoji extended an arm in front of Shiokuru, catching it, and Fu used a tentacle to catch the one Ochako dodged. Netsu, realizing he had the last ball, decided to take aim at Ken. Boom! Netsu shot him another explosive shot, this time more powerful, right at Ken, hoping he wouldn't have time to react. But Ken was alert and reacted quickly, and with 4 arms, he was able to cover a lot of his body, and caught the ball, quickly putting out the fire that was on the ball. Thankfully they were fire resistant. With all the balls on the blue team's side, it was time for some retaliation. Everyone target Ojiro, Fu said as he used his tentacle to redistribute the balls, giving 2 to Shiroku and 2 to Ochako, giving 1 to Ken, and keeping 1 to himself. Ojiro went on guard at hearing he was going to be targeted, as everyone on the blue but Fu tossed the balls right at Ojiro. Kiba and Nara ran in and caught 2 of the balls. Sansan managed to extend herself, creating arms to grab 2 of them, and Ojiro caught the last one. And, Su is out. Mina called. Kiba cried out in confusion, looking over to the left where Tsu had been, to see a ball on the floor in front of her, seeming to have bounced off her. You guys really need to pay attention, Fu reminded them. As it turns out, while everyone was distracted by the attack on Ojiro, Fu a second later than everyone else, sneakily threw his ball at Tsu, while she was running over to defend Ojiro, hitting her in the shoulder. Well, I guess I'm out, Tsu said as she walked off the field. Be careful guys, Fu's a tricky one. We know, Kiba said, glaring at Fu. Well then, let's try this. Kiba jumped into the air, and threw the ball down at Fu, with incredible strength. The ball moved too so fast Fu had no hope of dodging it in time, so he once again had Kyosei snap him in half, bending back in an inhuman fashion, and allowing the ball to fly behind him. However, this was Kiba's plan, and the ball, still moving at incredible speeds, bounced off the wall, and headed right towards Fu's legs. Splat! The ball hit Fu's legs, destroying them as it moved back towards Kiba's side. Sansan caught the ball as it came back to their side, although it was now covered in blood, and still had some bone dust as well. Fu is out, Mina called, as Fu now lay on the ground as his legs grew back. Didn't know you could do that, Fu said, as he used Kyosei's tendrils to push him back up onto his almost regenerated feet. I guess you underestimated me, Kiba said, smirking proudly at the undead boy. Guess I did. Good work. But don't let it go to your head, Fu warned her, as he stepped off the field. With that done, Nara immediately went over to Netsu and went to give one of the balls to him. Here you go. Thanks. Netsu went to take the ball, but suddenly Nara zipped away from him towards the front of the line that divided her side from the other teams and threw it at Ken. But Ken knew she was faking him out. She was his sister, after all, so he knew that if she wanted to give the ball to Netsu, she would have just zipped it into his hand, and so he was ready, quickly raising his arms, and catching the ball. Nice try loser, I know your tricks. Darn it, Nara muttered. Sorry Netsu, I wanted to get the drop on him. Don't worry about it. Netsu reassured her, as he picked up the ball that hit Tsu. I got this. Let's go, Sansan called, as she took Ojiro's ball, and held all 4 balls in front of Kiba. Kiba smirked. Good thinking sister. Bang, 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 bang. Kiba smacked the balls in quick succession, aiming at Ochako, Shoji, and Ken specifically, aiming too at Ochako to make sure. Ochako and Shoji jumped out of the way, and Ken spun around to avoid the ball and threw his own ball at Kiba. Boom! Then, Netsu blasted a ball at Ochako, hitting her while she was dodging the other balls. Ken's ball hit Kiba, and the ball Kiba threw at Ken rebounded, and hit Ken's foot. Uraraka, Ken, and Kiba are all out, Mina called. Darn, Ochako muttered in frustration. Not my best day. Aw man, Ken groaned. Curses, Kiba swore as she pouted heavily. That's what you get for being cocky, Nara taunted her brother. Don't get too full of yourself. You just lost your big gun, Ken called out, as Kiba and Ochako walked off the field. Although my elimination is a heavy loss, I have faith my team will succeed in my absence, Kiba said, as they went off to the side. Meanwhile, both teams were struggling to get as many balls as they could. Sansan picked up the 3 balls that ended up on her side, while Shiroku, Shoji, and Dark Shadow picked up the balls on their side. Oh, give me one. I have an idea, Netsu shouted. Immediately the other side got defensive, putting their balls down as they saw Sansan hand a ball to Netsu, getting ready to defend themselves. Netsu smirked, and then tossed the ball up. Solar flare. Suddenly, the brightness of Netsu's flames exploded, the bright light blinding everyone. Ag! Dark shadow recoiled from the light, shrinking away, leaving Tokoyami completely exposed. The ball came down, and Netsu smacked it at Tokoyami, hitting him right in the chest. Then, while still emitting a blinding light, Netsu grabbed the two other balls and threw them right at Shiruka and Shoji, who were stumbling around, unable to see. Once he was sure he hit them, Netsu turned down the light. And blue team is out. I think. Mina said, blinking rapidly like everyone else after her eyes got blasted with light. Did you guys get hit? I couldn't see anything. Shiruka sighed. I got hit. Me as well, Tokoyami said, lowering his head. I did too, Shoji admitted. Well then, red team wins, Mina announced. That's so cheap. Ken cried out. But not against the rules. Now don't be a sore loser, Mina told him. Kaminari, Jiro, the medals if you would. Red team gathered up, as the two students bestowed medals on them. Good job Netsu. Sue praised him. Indeed. Your strategy sealed their fates, and ensured our victory. Kiba added. The whole team was abuzz with praise, and they probably would have patted him on the back, or lifted him, if he weren't on fire. Netsu's flames became slightly more intense as he blushed, giving them a smile almost as bright as the solar flare he unleashed. Thanks, guys. I couldn't have done it without you. Everyone gave their applause, even the blue team, although for Ken it was begrudging. Congratulating them. Okay, after another short break, we'll be moving on to the next event, Mina announced. Get ready to go. Plus Ultra.